Welcome to the Connected Growth Coaching Podcast, where we support women to rediscover who they are so they can thrive in all parts of their lives. Your hosts, Jen Heilman and Amanda Kingsley, share with you unique life coaching resources centered around the power of the mind and the ancient practice of feng shui. All right, another podcast week, another awesome topic. Let's do this thing.
I know. I'm super excited to talk about this. Yes.
Podcast listeners, we are recording again live, and we have some live viewers here. Hi, Elise.
Hi, Elise.
Anyone else, say hi. Let us know who you are. Let us know if you have questions. We will check in with those. But for podcast world, this week, we are talking about something that came up for both of us individually, and as per usual, seemed to be like in the collective consciousness, right? Like,
yes,
super clear for me, super clear for Jen, and they were like, "Oh, we're not the only ones talking about this week because it's like in the air."
Yeah, I love that. I love that when you have an idea that seems really big like that big aha, that when you start to look around to your contemporaries, you know, and to your business partners, and they just randomly come up with the same exact idea, and everybody's writing emails to, you know, out to their newsletters and all that kind of stuff. And you're like, hey, I was just thinking that same thing, right?
It's like the clarity comes through for all of us in similar timing.
Right.
So for us this week, that was all about what really is it that opens the flow, right? What is it that gets us into that place of alignment and vibration that's like things are just clicking and creativity is on point, and that state of flow where it's just like, whoo, stuff is happening. This is so good. Hey, Elise. And so what became really clear about that, because this is the work that we do all the time. This is the work we do in talking about the 4 pillars for success and setting you up with your unique formula to balance your mind, body, spirit, and space. And then what the piece that became really clear this week was like, identifying the organization and the structure, creating structure,
right,
to open the flow, which is like, what?
Yeah, sounds totally counterintuitive, right?
Yeah. You're like, no, you're not supposed to move the rocks in the river. The water's supposed to go around the rocks in the river. But like, when you create structure in your life, when you create organization in your life, when you get a clear picture of like what's happening in your head, what's happening in your business, what's happening in your personal life, and really clarify it and organize it, you actually make room.
Right. You're making room for that flow, right? Because creativity really is tapping into that higher power, that higher self, you know? And so if we're blocked and we're stuck in all the areas, you know, mind, body, spirit, and space, if we have, you know, disruptions and we have things blocking that flow, then all of that creativity and flow doesn't come through for us.
Right.
Yeah. So we look at where all that is, where, you know, when we look at the structures of the 4 pillars, we can see where things are being blocked, right? If we're looking at the mind, I'll let you talk about the mind because that's your specialty. But, you know, when you're talking about the mind, it's, you know.
Oh, my phone's ringing. That's nice.
They can't even hear it because I can barely hear it.
Keep going.
All right. So when you're talking about the mind, you know, you're talking about what stories are blocking your path. You know, like what are you letting in? What thought patterns are blocking your creativity, right? Blocking that flow, right?
So in terms of like scheduling an organization, it's like, oh, I got to do that thing to apply my kids for school.
Yes.
And in terms of like your business, like I got to get that email sequence written, or I got to get that mail out to so-and-so, or I need to stop and deposit the money at the bank.
Right.
So those are all the things. They're the stories. They're the swirling. They're the like chaos in your mind.
Right.
When you structure it out, when you lay it on paper, you enter it into a calendar, you file it in the file cabinet, whatever the organization and structure is, you actually make room. Like
right.
you
You're taking it
space.
out of the brain. You're taking it out of the clutter out of your brain, and you're opening it up to the flow. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's like you gotta empty.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, you need structure and you need consistency to follow. Yeah.
Right.
And we know this as parents, right? Like our kids actually need structure. They need boundaries. They need to understand, like, when does this happen and when does that happen? And yes, some of us are way more flexible and some of us don't have as much rigidity in our structure, but you need some amount of organization in order to, and when we say creativity, we're talking about problem solving. We're talking about like even like math kind of creativity. Like we're talking, it's not just like painting a pretty picture. We're talking
focus,
about like
it's clarity,
expression.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like, and those are the things that you want to be feeling, right? You want to feel focused. You want to feel productive. You want to feel, you know, clear in your mind. You want to feel, you know, and also just like opening up points of joy, right? And having like those positive feelings coming through. Like when you're in that creativity mode, it feels good, right?
And like
you're
tap
like,
into the passion
it today, right?
Like I know for me, we're almost to the, well, no, we're in March. Woo,
it is March 1st.
February was not such a great month.
Yes.
But anyway, what I was just going to say is I went skiing for the first time. Last week.
Oh my God.
And it was really interesting because my week was super organized and super scheduled and super like made sense. And it made room for me to be like, oh yeah, I'll just throw on my skis and go skiing.
Your week, can I just say, I got my birthday was a few days ago, and I got a Fitbit from my husband, and your Fitbit is attached to your wrist. If you don't know what that is, it's kind of like a watch that monitors your calories and your steps and all that kind of stuff. But you can also get text messages and you can get alerts from your calendar. Well, Amanda's calendar is linked to my calendar. So I was getting so many, my wrist kept buzzing. And I'd look down and I'm like, oh, it's time for yoga. It's time to plan. I had to go back in and take your personal calendar off of mine. So anyways, you were determined last week to create that structure so that you could open yourself up to the flow. And that's a beautiful example.
Yes. So the joy, like skiing is something I enjoy, but every other time I had an opportunity to ski this winter, I had so many things on my to-do list that I couldn't even figure out how to like get my gear, get myself and my kids to the mountain and go skiing. It like felt like way too much. Yeah. This week was super scheduled, created space for me to experience that joy.
Right.
So,
I
so
love
it was
that.
such a good example. I hadn't thought of that until we got on. Yeah. It's So that's the whole concept, is like, what organization can you create in your life? How can you structure out your get-to-dos so that you know when they're happening? It's not like, oh, I have to fill out that application for school. It's like, oh, I'm filling that out Thursday at 3.
Right.
And then when it comes to your mind, you know it's in the calendar somewhere. Right. Maybe you don't remember that it's Thursday at 3, but you're like, I already scheduled that. When I get there, I get there. Right. It's not like, oh, I got to do that. When am I going to do that? And so there's all this room and there's all this energy, and you start to get like what I call downloads. Like you get clarity from the universe. You get relief. You create space. Right. And it's like you can breathe again because you've created structure versus this long list of things I have to get to. Elise, I think, is still watching, and she's a writer. So it's similar, like if she has the other pieces of her life, like her mothering and her work and her this and her that scheduled out, when she sits down to write, she can just write. Right.
Because she knows
it's this like is just the time I have to write. Her, the creativity and the flow and the energy and the expression, right? Her words are going to come through so much clearer if all that other stuff is not cluttering up her mind.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Right? It's like, I want to tell my story in paper, but really in my head, there's like 17 other things happening. And so I'm not super clear about how to get those words onto paper, or I don't really feel like doing it because there's no room.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. For me, what comes up is the, like a morning ritual, right? You have to actually schedule that. You have to schedule your
Right.
morning ritual, right? Like, this is how I do it.
Yeah.
You know, maybe it's not exactly the same steps every morning,
Yeah.
but there has to be certain non-negotiables that are in there, right? Like I drink my coffee and then I light a candle and I sit down and I meditate for, even if it's just 2 minutes, you know, like I have that contract with myself that I know that if I can meditate for 2 minutes, then all of a sudden everything else opens up, right? If I'm sitting down to do my morning pages after that, then all of the thoughts are there. So then I can get the thoughts down on paper and get them out of my brain, and I can, you know, move from there, right? So it's knowing yourself, and just, if you haven't started these kinds of practices, it's finding trying something and seeing what works, you know, because I know that we try a lot of things. That's just part of our personalities. We try a lot of things, but in trying the many things, we pull little pieces from each of those things, right? That's how I've come up with many of my practices, is that I pull what works for me. So in the morning, when I get 2 of my family members out the door, my husband and my daughter, they're out first. My son is not up yet, and I sit down and I light some candles around the house. I sit down and I take that 10 minutes to just be quiet. I use my tarot cards. They give me some clarity. I do some writing, and I drink my coffee, and I am awesome. I love it. It's like, even if it's for 10 minutes, it changes my whole outlook on the day.
But you know when that's going to happen.
Right.
If you think about like organized religion, which I've never been super involved in any kind of organized religion, but like, that's what church is. Like, we scheduled time to come together and connect with God, right?
It's true.
Now, where it's gone a little wonky is that, and it's just like it works the same way with all the other practices in your life, is like, just because you do that on Sunday at 11 doesn't mean you ignore your connection with God the rest of the week. Right? Like, so you can't get so rigid in your structuring that you like only connect with God Sunday at 11, or you only open the doors for meditation or movement or exercise at certain times. So there has to be flexibility, but also just knowing and looking forward to Sunday at 11 as a time to connect with God relieves some of the you get to like look forward to it. Right. So I may be using that example not the right way, because that
makes a lot of sense. I think that makes a lot of sense. Is I think that people do get disconnected out in the world because of, you know, that they I don't only, because I'm scheduling in that time for connection in the morning. For me, I'm connecting throughout the whole day. Like, it sets up this whole right.
And so I've noticed times in my life where I'll sit down and do my journaling work just to do it, to say that I did it. And it's like, oh, that didn't serve its purpose. Right. Because I just like scheduled it and did it to do it. I didn't do it actually.
You didn't feel your way through it. Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's when you know you're out of alignment, when you're like sitting down to do, but it's just like doesn't feel right. Exactly. But you brought something up a few minutes ago. You said your contract. And that is the most important part to me of creating organization and scheduling your life. You then have to honor it.
Yeah, to follow through. Yeah.
If you said you were going to write Tuesday afternoon, and you get to Tuesday afternoon and you don't write, you've now scheduled something important to you and then not honored your word. Yeah. Right? Why are you backing out? What's the excuse you're using to not honor that schedule that you put together? Now, this week, there were things that I wasn't able to honor. There was 2 2-hour delays for our kids at school. It definitely messes things up. So there are times. But if you notice yourself in a pattern of like scheduling, organizing, and then not honoring that, you got to start over. Like you have to follow through on your own word. Yeah. You say you're going to do yoga, you got to do yoga, whether you want to or not. And this is the piece that a lot of like spiritual woo, like energetically flowy people get messed up on. If I say I'm going to do yoga and I get to yoga time and I don't want to do yoga, there's this spiritually wooey excuse that says, well, I don't feel in alignment with yoga right now, so I'm not going to do yoga. It doesn't work that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm going to say that's going to get you in trouble.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That's when you honor your word to yourself. You go, it's okay that I don't want to. It's okay that I don't feel in alignment with yoga right now. My word to myself and my body and my spirit includes pushing through the discomfort of not wanting to do it.
Because the reason that you scheduled yoga is because it feels so damn good when you do it. Right?
Yeah.
So you may be telling yourself, I don't want to do it right now. But when you do it, the reason you scheduled it is because if you can push through the resistance and the resistance, then you are going to get to the other side and you're going to feel damn good, right?
It's like our podcast last week where you talked about set yourself up for success. If you want to run in the morning, put your running shoes where so you'll step right into them. And you feel that resistance. You feel that discomfort. Like, I don't want to run. Right. I don't want to do
I just
yoga.
woke up. I don't want to run.
I don't want to write. Whatever the thing is, you have to push through that I don't want to.
Right.
You have to honor your word to yourself and you have to honor your future self, the self that you want to become, one who follows the schedule, one who sticks to the routine, one who actually files the papers, whatever it is.
Well, even if you have other rituals that go with like doing the yoga, like lighting a candle beforehand or setting up your essential oils or, like doing something that's, again, setting yourself up for success. So it's like taking those initial steps, like I'm just gonna, all right, I don't really feel like doing yoga right now, but I'm going to lay out the mat and I'm going to light a candle and, and then it starts to get you in the mood, right? Like all of a sudden you're like, oh, you know what? It's going to feel really good if I do this, so just like making
and even
sure
if it doesn't feel good, right? Even if you get through yoga, you're like, that was a waste of 20 minutes.
Which it never is. I can't imagine that.
But I just want to make the point.
Yeah.
So I like to make extreme points.
I know you do.
So I just want to make the point that even if it didn't feel good, you still get to feel good about honoring your word to yourself, which always feels amazing. Mm-hmm. So some people would say the yoga always feels amazing. Other people, like I definitely don't always feel amazing when I go for a run or when I exercise or when I do yoga. But I always feel amazing when I honored my word, right? Like when I did what I said I would do for myself, whether it felt amazing or not. 'Cause sometimes you're like, well, that was a crappy run, but I did it, right? Like just because it wasn't the best run of your life or the best yoga or the best meditation of your life or the best writing of your life doesn't mean it wasn't amazing that you did it. And you're always like, well, I did what I said I was going to do versus that regret of not doing it. Like, I didn't feel like going for the run. I didn't feel like doing yoga, so I bailed on myself.
Yeah.
That always feels icky.
It does, yeah.
You're always like...
Yeah, exactly.
I just like...
Yeah, it's just a showing up, right? It's a showing up. It's, it's creating, the following up with yourself and with others. And it radiates out into so many other things in your life. Like that's why we always talk about how you do one thing is how you do everything. And when you start following up with yourself, you're going to start following up with other people and it's going to start to radiate out into how you show up in the world.
Yeah.
Have we said hi to Tara? Hi, Tara.
I just flip back to my notes. So like the thing is for me, like that Sunday, that scheduling, the other piece of it is that you know exactly what to do. You're not wasting any amount of minutes going,
yes.
Which task should I do? I have 17 tasks that need to get done. Which one should I do?
Right.
When you do that scheduling and that organizing, you don't waste time on that.
Right.
You're like, now's the time I'm supposed to write the email sequence. Or now's the time I'm supposed to pay the bills. Now's the time I'm supposed to exercise. You're not wasting all that energy on like, what should I do with my 15 minutes? Or what should I do? Like, what's the most important thing? It's like, establish that ahead of time.
Right. Exactly.
Put that all in your calendar. So for me, like the weekly calendar is super structured, but then if you look at the next week, it's kind of empty. And then on Sunday night, I'll fill it back in with all the to-dos that have come up.
Exactly.
And then I know exactly what to do. I'm not wasting any time not knowing what to do. Because that is the worst. When you're just like,
well, and it's just, and it comes back to the feng shui too, right? Like creating the containers in your space as well for, creating the organization and setting yourself up for success. Like you said, with the sneakers, like you literally get out of you turn your body to the side as you're getting out of bed and your sneakers are right there and you put them on, that sort of thing. Or for me in the morning, it's, the night before I make sure that the coffee is set up, and the tea kettle is full. And, cause I'm way more awake, at night than I am first thing in the morning when I'm like groping for my coffee, and so just like setting yourself up, clearing the space, and just when you see the clutter start to pile up, and it weights you down in, such a huge capacity. It clutters your mind, it clutters your body, it clutters everything. Going and taking the 5 minutes to clear it off so that next time you walk into that space, you feel that much better, Yeah. So.
We talk to our clients a lot about celebrating their wins, and organizing and scheduling is a great way to create more wins.
Yeah, right.
Because when you celebrate your wins, you sort of like, you get high on winning, right? You get high on honoring your word to yourself. You get high on checking things off the list. And those are all good things to get high on. But you get to celebrate your wins because you're like, oh, check, I'm doing it.
Big old Sharpie that I just check it off.
So there's a lot more celebration when you create that schedule and organization. And then the other thing is, like, if anyone's started a gratitude practice or gratitude journal, or just tried to be more grateful in their life, that's really hard to do when you don't have room and space.
Yeah.
When you're like in the chaotic swirl and stress and overwhelm, it's really hard to be grateful. When you make room with structure, it opens up so much more room for gratitude. And that's like the true currency of life, right?
Yeah,
like
really
that's where the magic happens. Celebrating your wins, noticing your gratitude, honoring how blessed you are. But it's really hard to do that if you're not scheduled. And I don't mean schedule your gratitude. I just mean getting all that junk out of your mind makes so much room.
For the good stuff, right?
It's just like you can really truly feel blessed in a way that's hard to do when you're overwhelmed.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and just it opens you up to be more present, in the moments that you're, and actually showing up in a totally different way.
Present. That's perfect. Is exactly what it does.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Do you have anything else to say?
I'm sure we do, but
reach out to us, whether you're watching a replay on Instagram or Facebook, or listening to the podcast anytime in the future. Always feel free to reach out to us or comment. We're
at Connected Growth on both Facebook and Instagram, so you can always reach us there. Those are easy places to find us, and we are at connectedgrowthcoaching.com. So all of the above. Come find us.
Have fun.
All right.
As always, thanks for listening. If you learned something today that can help the people in your circle, please help us get the word out by sharing. When you leave us a rating and review on iTunes, it not only warms our hearts, but it helps people find us. We are eternally grateful for your support, and we're looking forward to connecting with you next week. Until then, you can find the show notes at www.connectedgrowthcoaching.com. You can grab your journal and then get your shui on.